Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited to get started. I'm running around from one task to the next, like I'm assuming everybody is. But today's topic's a really good one. We're going to be diving into just how federal buyers find us, right? And this is a question I get asked a lot about how come I'm not getting contacted by buyers. You keep telling me, Neil, that there's hundreds of thousands of buyers out there, and how come we're not getting contacted? And so today I'm going to dive into that and start pushing forward. I'm a little out of breath because I just had to run somewhere really quick and come back, but I made it in time for the live, and that's all that matters. I did want to just get started with a quick tip for success for those of you showing up early and on time. I really appreciate that you do. And my tip for you today is don't be an opportunity hoarder. And what I mean by this is take a moment and clean up your pipeline, your sales pipeline. So for any of us who are tracking on a sales pipeline, we might keep it in our spreadsheets. We might keep it in an actual sales pipeline tool. Go in there before the end of the year here and look at that pipeline, get rid of 50% of it. And I'm just saying 50% based on experience, not based on an understanding of your pipeline, right? But from my experience, I can go into people's pipelines and I can see stuff that is put in there that really shouldn't be in there, right? That maybe you thought it was a good idea, it was on a forecast, and then it's no longer there. So take a look at your pipeline. When you get rid of 50% or even more of the opportunities in your pipeline, it helps you then have room to put the right opportunities going into 2025 that you'll be able to win. So my tip for you is don't be an opportunity hoarder. Don't try to hoard all those opportunities you have seen in 1,000 different places. All right. And again, thank you for those showing up early and on time and for engaging in the chat. That's your network. That's your community. It's our community. And when you engage, you make people feel welcome. Let them know that you're open to connecting and, maybe take it offline. But I'm going to dive into a lot of stuff today. And I thought I'd start off with just a quick little story. A while back, there was just this really bad storm, and massive river overflowed its banks and just started flooding the whole county. And this huge area, right? And so the waters kept coming up. Cars were starting to not be able to drive, and then pretty soon the cars were underwater. And as the water kept running up, a local preacher was doing everything he could to try to help everybody. Many of the people in his parish were flocking to his house and coming over, and they're praying to be kept safe, and they're also trying to help each other. And then as the water was coming up, and it was about porch height, so up to the window sills on that first floor, as the water is coming up, a boat came by asking if there was anybody that needed to be rescued and taken to safety. And the preacher was like, oh, awesome. And so he grabbed some of the people who were hurt. They had hurt themselves and come into the house, et cetera. And so they got him into the boat, and the boat went away. And the water just kept rising. And now people are kind of going up to the second floor. And as that water is like fully above the first floor, and the house is halfway covered with water, that's how deep this flood was. A second boat comes along, and they're like, hey, we got room to take some people. Does anybody need to go? And the preacher was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. We got women and children in here. Let's get them into the boat first. A couple other people, and then the boats were full. And so the boats left, and there was just 4 people left in the house, in the preacher's house. And as the water kept rising, it came all the way up to the roof level. And it's one of those peak roofs. And it's coming up, lapping at the top of the gutters and the roof there. And as that water is rising, a helicopter comes along with a ladder dropped. And these 4 men are up on the roof, thankful for safety. And the helicopter, one of the rescue people leans out and says, we got room for 3 people. And so the preacher's like quickly getting up, his flock, the 3 men that were on there. And as that helicopter is flying away, the preacher kind of gets to the top of that roof and hits his knees, and he starts praying to God. It's like, I understand, God, your will be done, but if there's any way you can get me out of this mess and let me be saved, I'll be eternally thankful. And all of a sudden, there's this booming voice. It's like, what do you expect from me? I already sent 2 boats and a helicopter. And the reason I'm telling you this is because not that contracting officers are deities or anything, but I'm kind of sending you 2 boats and a helicopter. When I do 600 trainings in 3 years, teaching about what to do to get the contracting officers and the federal buyers to find you, that's an important part to be able to understand how you can reach success. And so, as you're thinking about how can you have success in 2025, remember right here, even today, I'm going to show you two boats and a helicopter. Get on one of them and you'll be heading towards success. Hopefully that story made sense. I liked it. I like that story a lot. So that's always good when you like your own stories. Let's get started though in talking about this whole theme here of attracting federal buyers to you, right? How can we sit there and not just knock on their doors, but get them to start knocking on our doors? That's really the more important thing. And so today I want to talk about how federal buyers are going to find you and how they find other small businesses like you. When you know how the game is played, when you know the process, then you can follow that process. Today, I'm going to break up the training into 4 sections. The first thing, I just want to put it in perspective of why I teach what I teach. Where did I come up with this? When did I come up with it? So I put here, no one ever told me. And this is around the fact that I spent 20 years as a small business owner and no one ever told me what I'm telling you and what I've been teaching since 2018. And then I want to talk about, when do buyers go looking for small businesses like you? Where do they look for companies like you? And then we'll wrap up with some tips on what you can do to make sure you're doing your job to get found, right? You can't put it on the contracting officer and the federal buyer to find you. You need to make it easy for them, and you can make it easy for them, and then it all kind of comes together. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonough. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am the co-founder and CEO of GovCon in a Box, and I'm really happy to have you here with me today in my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, Government Contracting Success Newsletter, right here on LinkedIn. Put a lot of great articles out there. It is the largest government contracting newsletter by far, and it's because we're always putting out really valuable tactical steps for you to pay attention to, really good information that helps you succeed. The other thing is, I just want to let you know about tomorrow's training. If you're around, I lay out some top tasks that need to be done here in December. So government tasks to do before 2025. I want to make sure you're tracking on that. So that's tomorrow's training. Go register for that. Before we get started, I just want to congratulate the companies that are in the 100 Club. This 100 Club is around your federal visibility score, ironically or coincidentally very related to today's training. Your federal visibility score, which you can find on govconinabox.com for free. When you go there, you'll be able to see your score. How visible am I to federal buyers? And when you go in there and you look at your score, click on your score and you'll see detailed steps, what you need to do to increase your score. If your score is 70 or below, you're virtually invisible to the buyer. It doesn't mean you can't sell to federal buyers or to the agencies, but what it does mean is you're making it massively hard for them to find you. And I just want you to fix that. So go check out your visibility score on govconinabox.com. Let me know when you get to 100 so we can celebrate it right here on that slide. Okay, so let's get started with just the day that really it frustrated me and then it drove me to action. Is the day I realized how much about government contracting I didn't know and what people weren't telling me. I had spent 20 years as a small business government contractor in 2 different companies that I had. And it wasn't until I started the GovCon Chamber that I began to realize things. And this was back in 2018. So my company, my last company, was a Microsoft SharePoint-based company, meaning we did SharePoint solutions. We were better than Microsoft, in my opinion, at this. We certainly were a small business that could go to toe-to-toe with them. We were that good because we had solid expertise and solid past performance. But what I came to realize when I came out and I started teaching people how to grow their businesses, I wasn't just growing it myself, but I was like, well, how do I help them? Well, I started talking to all sorts of people, hundreds and hundreds of contracting officers. So not just one and one opinion, right? Small business specialists, contracting officers, P-tax back then, all these people who were talking about how they saw the buying process and the selling process within the federal market. I really began to document it, right? I had a lot of strong sales skills, but back in 2018, I really started documenting and developing the government contracting process. And one of the most important ones was this idea of being visible to the federal buyer. You need to be visible to the buyer in order for them to be able to come to you. I've done a lot of training on this, but basically there's well over 500,000 federal buyers. Let's just leave it at that number, right? DOD alone has well over 200,000 people in the acquisition workforce, right? So there's a ton of people who are buying, but they need to be able to find you. And in 2018, I really started digging into the process of how do they find you. Started off with the basics like market research and the acquisition lifecycle, but I then began to spend many years working with thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of small businesses on refining the process. How do I get you found? It's like, oh, I got to get you to niche down and really sell one thing. I got to get you to register here. So all these things. I've been teaching visibility in our BD Accelerator workshop, this 90-day workshop we do. It always begins with visibility. Look, I'm not going to teach you how to sell until I know that you know what you sell, and we're sharing it in a way that the government can find you and they find that attractive. And I'll talk more about that in a second, about being findable and attractive. But this idea of when you make yourself visible, the federal buyer can buy from you. I say this all the time, that federal buyers don't buy from the best. They buy from the best of who shows up. And sometimes you're showing up when you respond to them, and sometimes you show up when they're looking for you. But either way, if you're not showing up, they're not even going to consider you. They're not even going to reject you. That's the worst, right? That's the worst thing is to not even be considered and rejected. I wasn't even considered. I want you to be considered over and over. I want you to get found. And if that's what you want, put that in the chat. Say, find me in the chat. Let me know that you do want to be found by federal buyers. Okay, so let's start with, let me just get in here really quick. Let's start about thinking about when do federal buyers start looking for you, right? There's a certain period of time, and depending on who the federal buyer is, it changes. I do a lot of training. You can go find this, but basically the federal buyer is made up of multiple functional areas. So you've got a contracting officer who signs the contract. That's the end of the life cycle, basically. So you got a contracting officer, you've got acquisition support staff, but then you start sliding into that whole program office. The people actually have the need. And so I put here as number one on when do they start looking. It's just when somebody's got an idea. This happens all the time throughout any company. Even in my own company, we start going, hey, I wonder if we could do this. And so in the beginning, when I say, I wonder if we can do this, and we're brainstorming a little, we're like, well, I wonder if anybody out there does this or has any information. So now I start exploring it on the internet, right? That's a program office doing an initial exploration of ideas. They're thinking about things. Forget about the formal process. They're still in the informal process. Where should we go with AI? We've got this for drones, but where else could we go? And this is just the millions of people within the federal government. All of them at some point might have an idea they want to explore on the internet or wherever, right? And so that's when they start looking for small businesses like yours who might be able to just teach them without them ever talking to you, right? Your content, et cetera. And then maybe they engage you for discussion. The second time when they start looking for you is it's what I call a broad industry awareness campaign. So think about any of these days that the OSDBO offices hold these vendor outreach sessions, and there's no real purpose to it, right? And I know I'm generalizing, but the idea is they're just like, oh, we got 400 hub zones coming in. It's like, all right, well, that's another time that they're kind of looking for industry. They're doing some matchmaking events where they sit down with people and they're kind of discovering industry. So there's an industry day where they talk about one opportunity to a bunch of industry partners, you and me. There's a reverse industry day where it's not about one opportunity, but they're trying to talk and understand about a lot of folks out there. That's another time when they start looking for businesses like yours. And so when you can, especially when it's virtual, you might want to engage in them because you're being visible to them. And then the last one that I have here, the third way or third time that they start looking for you is when they when the federal buyer enters into the formal market research phase of the acquisition lifecycle. So this formal market research phase includes two main parts. An RFI, which generally is about, hey, industry, I want to formally talk about requirements. And a sources sought, hey, industry, I'm trying to find out if there's any type of small businesses that might be able to support our needs, et cetera. And so that market research is an important time. This is when they go looking for you, right? So now let's talk about where they go looking for you, right? There's 4 places that I put here, 4 generalizations of where federal buyers go to look for you. First place they go looking for you is their internal supplier portals. An example is NASA. NASA has its own supplier portal, or I think they call it a vendor database, right? And so when NASA buyers go to look for small businesses like you, the place they might go first is the NASA internal vendor database. You want to make sure you're registered in there. In fact, in our newsletter that I talked about a minute ago, in our newsletter, I provide step-by-step guide on how to register in there. So now you're in there and you're visible when they're looking, or you're visible. Whether they find us is a separate question, right? But be in their supplier portals. Second place is DSBS. DSBS is a small business administration, or SBA tool, called the Dynamic Small Business Search Tool. So DSBS, together with SAM, make up your small business profile. When federal buyers are looking for small businesses, they can go into DSBS and find small businesses, women-owned small businesses that sell, this keyword, et cetera. So they go to DSBS. That's the second place. Third place they go to look for, federal buyers go to look for small businesses like you, LinkedIn. For sure, LinkedIn is coming up. This guy, Mark Amtower, has been doing this report every year, and he's been doing it for so many years, I can't even remember how long, of how many federal buyers are on LinkedIn and how many agencies with company pages and showcase pages, but it is always in the millions, right? There's always a ton. It was always a great report, but now you can just do it on your own, right? You can target the agencies you're trying to go after, and you can look in there. Well, also, when you want to get found by federal buyers, maybe you should be finding them, engaging with them a little bit, and then when they're coming out into LinkedIn to find you, they're kind of aware of you. Another way on LinkedIn to be visible, like in DSBS, you go fill out the data. In LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you're communicating what you sell, right? I sell data analytics services to the federal agencies or something. Make sure you put your capability statement inside of your LinkedIn profile. Make sure you put your NAICS code, not your NAICS code, your CAGE code and your UEI in there, so it's easy for them to go find it. All right, fourth way is organizations. Some agencies, when they're trying to find small businesses like yours, they'll turn to the SBA. The SBA has the small business development centers, the women business centers, the veteran outreach business centers. They interact with SCORE and some of these other ones, but they have all these different organizations. There's like hundreds of them around the country. And federal buyers have these relationships with these organizations. They've been around for years. And so sometimes they might turn over. Yesterday, I was just talking with somebody about Oklahoma and how Tinker Air Force Base reaches out to these organizations. Like, now I'm talking about Apex Accelerator, or there's one-off organizations like ours, the GovCon Chamber. But Tinker Air Force Base is reaching out and saying, hey, we're looking for to grow our supply chain. We have a need to do that. And so federal buyers will go out to these organizations. The reason I'm saying this, and it's important to you, is that you want to build a relationship with your SBA district office, with the SBA's SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, with the PTAC or the Apex Accelerators. You want to build a working relationship with them. This is your network. I literally call these people your informal advisors, or the 7 mentors. Another example of organizations, and I just do it as mine, is the GovCon Chamber. I started it in 2018. And to tell you how effective this was, by the time we had 300 members, we had a member in our organization from every single state and territory, including Northern Mariana Islands and Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands. So we had all these people, and we just kept growing and growing. And the SBA themselves knew of us. We engaged with them. They turned to us back in 2018 and brought the State Department to us and said, we've been trying to find small businesses that could do this work and set it aside. In fact, we're trying to do this to hub zones, and we're really not having any luck. And what can you do? Long story short, inside of 24 hours, I had almost 100 hub zone small businesses respond to a sources sought to the State Department expressing interest in the opportunity. 2 weeks later, that opportunity was set aside to hub zones. In a couple of months, like 2-3 months max, it was awarded to a couple of hub zones. This was a $200 million opportunity that the State Department and the SBA reached out to organizations like mine. And this is why wherever you're at, you got local organizations, et cetera, take the time to be engaged. Make sure they are aware of you, so that if somebody goes, hey, do you know anybody that does elevators? I'm always going to turn to Rafa. Do you know anybody that does American Sign Language? I'm always going to turn to Nina, right? Have these things in mind as you go forward. One more example, because I got a couple of seconds here, is Just this past week, I had SOSI, and I don't think that's how I say it, but SOS International. Anyways, this is a large business. They reached out and said, hey, we're trying to find small businesses to team up with on something we're doing, and we really want to find qualified small businesses. Can you help us? I put the word out. Within 24 hours, they got over 200 responses from small businesses who were in their space, who were looking to meet with this large. And of those, the person who had reached out had already scheduled like 50 meetings, was finding about 30 or 40% win rate, meaning of the 10 smalls she met with, 3 or 4 of them were right on. And imagine how good that's working for them. All this to say, when you think about being visible and getting found by federal buyers and by teammates, make sure you're visible where they're looking. Internal supplier portals, DSPS, LinkedIn, and all these different organizations that are out there available to you. By the way, we're the only ones not funded by the government, so I don't want you to confuse that if you haven't been here before. Apex Accelerators, the SBA, all those guys are funded by the government. Okay, and the last thing is it's your responsibility to get found, right? And a little tough love here, right? I like to sit there and say that if you want to get found, take responsibility for why they're not finding you. When you do, you're in control. When you say they're responsible for finding you, then you're totally right. Now you got to just wait for them to do something different, right? And I want you to be able to get found. And if you want to get found and follow these tips, I'll talk to you about it. Put get found in the chat. Get found. Show me some enthusiasm. I bring you enthusiasm. Give me a little love back. Okay, so here's the first thing for getting found that I want you to make sure you're doing and refresh it going into 2025. Get this done in the next 2 weeks. Be findable. This means keywords. Look at the keywords you're using. More importantly, look at the keywords the federal buyer might use to find you. What are they going to type into Google or DSPS or whatever to find you? Are they going to type plumber? Are they going to type zero trust architecture? Are they going to type painting or data analytics? Whatever it is, know your keywords. And you should have like 50 of the keywords. We have a free tool. You can go on our website and you'll see it somewhere down towards the bottom of the home page. There's a tool that says keyword generator. Go in there, try it out. It is an awesome tool. I literally use it right now when I'm helping customers. I'm in love with my own tools, but that's okay. So use that tool. And the second thing is be attractive. Make sure what you're writing about your company and what you sell is a clear, focused offer. First off, it's really clear what you sell. Second, focus. It's really niched down, right? So I can understand what you sell and I can see it's niched down and I can see where you might fit. We also have a free tool out there that the team built in GovCon in a Box, which I love. And this is a capability narrative generator. So basically, it'll create that paragraph for you in DSPS and other places that take the keywords and merge it into a good paragraph that says, hey, this is what we sell. Third thing, be where they're looking. So make sure that you're going into DSPS. Make sure you're going into the supplier portals and register yourself. Literally, there's 360,000 companies. If you were here right from the beginning, you saw that only 111 have this perfect 100 score that I give. That means 360,000 are still invisible because that's only 100, right? So get into govconinabox.com, check out your visibility score, watch the videos that I tell you exactly what you need to do to increase your visibility. And then when you've done that, take that information from DSPS and SAM and move it over to the supplier portals you should be in. Should you be in HHS's portal or the Army, APG's Army Proving Ground? There's a portal there. NASA, EPA has one. NavAir has one. All sorts of larges. We have a supplier portal directory. You can find it right here on my newsletter. You can go to the website and find it there. But be where the buyers are looking. If you're not where they're looking, how can you be found? If you want the federal buyer to find you, but you're not where they're looking, how can you be found? I want you to be found. And apparently so do a bunch of you. Thanks everybody for putting it in there. Okay, here's the last thing. Here's what I want you to walk away with and remember today as you go forward. First off, the federal government does not buy from the best. It's really important to remember this. They buy from the best of those who show up. Doesn't matter if you're the best company out there and you do the best thing ever, like me, right? It didn't matter that my company was the best at SharePoint, my last company. If they couldn't find me, then they're not even going to consider me. And I told you, worse than being rejected is not to be even considered. So keep that in mind. You need to show up. Second thing, and the third thing, it's this mindset or shift or whatever it is that you need to do. But you need to start keeping this in mind. Federal buyers want to find you. They're not trying to avoid you. They want to find you. If you're good at what you do, if you sell something of value that can meet their requirement, they absolutely want to find you, and they absolutely want to buy from you. Keep this in mind. Federal buyers want to buy from you. They're not going to give you anything. They don't care that you're a veteran-owned business or a woman-owned business, minority-owned business. What they care about is, can you solve the mission? If you can solve the mission, then they want to find you and they want to buy from you. And we just need to make it easier for them. Hey, as we move forward, this is stuff I'm teaching you is what we do in the BD Accelerator Workshop. As we move into the 2025 range, I'm going to stop doing the BD Accelerator Workshop. I want to work on a lot more of these tools with my co-founders. But December is the last time we're selling the BD Accelerator Workshop. And it's for companies, generally, I say 2 million plus, because there is an investment. If that's something you're interested in, you'd like us to talk to you about it, put workshop in the chat and we'll follow up. For all of us, though, as we move forward, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is being visible. Go to govconinabox.com and find your visibility score right now. I will see you in the next training. Tomorrow's my training on, what is that? I can't even see it. I got such bad eyes. What is that thing? Oh, GovCon tasks. So this one's really important. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the tasks that need to be done in December. It is so important to me that I share this with you. I'm teaching on a holy day for me, or a precious day for me. This is my son's birthdays tomorrow. I'm going to take 30 minutes, come in and teach, and then go back. And but you know, I never had good birthdays when I was young, and I said, my kids are going to have great birthdays, and I'm going to be right there. But they understand that I like coming here and helping you. So make sure you come back. If you're coming back, just register. Let me know you're coming. Either way, have a great day. I will see you in the next training.